Good evening and welcome to Four Lads Rangers Weekend Pod with myself, Stevie Clifford. Welcome everybody to the show on this Friday evening. What a beautiful day it's been. I've had the dog out and all sorts today. It's been beautiful. Had some good company in her, so enjoyed a wee walk around the park, Andrew. It's great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers for having me on. I didn't have the luxury of going out, and I was stuck in the office until closed today. But we're all good. Happy to be down for the weekend, and just looking forward to Rangers' final game of the season.
Yeah, we will discuss that. I think actually let's just start on tomorrow. I think that's the best way to do it. Hibs away, Hibs in great form. In fairness, I think David Gray's done a cracking job with them. Plays some nice football, and they're going to be bang up for it because they've sealed third, so there's nothing to lose, Andrew, and for us, absolutely nothing to lose either. Neither team have a great defensive record, and I think both can score goals going forward. It was three each last time there. I can see it being something similar. I think this will be an end to end frantic finish to the end of the season.
Yeah, I was reminiscent of the five each game not too long ago. Well, it feels like it wasn't too long ago because we slipped back into that kind of form that we were in that year, and the chaos surrounding management and sacking managers and poor form and players needing to go. You know, a five each game which made Jordan Ross look like a good player, mind you. So you never know what can happen in these games. So yeah, it could go either way with our defence and our how we are in front of goal. We can certainly put them in the net, it seems, recently, but we certainly can also have those days where we kind of keep out our own net. So, yeah, the capital could be an interesting site for the neutral, shall we say.
Yeah, just what a start to the show. It's been Tino55 gifts one four lads had a dream membership to anyone. If you want to grab that, if it's still at the top, grab it while you can. We've had a fantastic uplift to the members channel. It's been absolutely fantastic and loved all the support we've had. The uplift from the Stephen Naismith interview has been huge for us. Really appreciate it. Everybody that's took out a membership, you're going to see your name go across the bottom. There's a membership competition currently running. I got offered quite a lot of things like t-shirts and things like that. So I have put a couple up this afternoon, which have been sent to us. So check out that members only video. You can join us and come and get some access to early things. And one of the things you can get access to is Stephen Naismith's interview, which we had the other day. It's members only. So check that out if you want to view it. As I said, big thanks to everybody that has done. We've had an incredible reaction to it. Comments are great from the members, and I think it's fair to say that it's a divisive one. And I'm really glad. See, when you get feedback like this from William, appreciate it. Still harbour ill feeling towards Naismith, but a fantastic interview with him, Stevie. Well done. Yeah, I think we're all feeling like that. I think we all understand, the feeling surrounding Stephen Naismith, but we wanted him to be candid and honest, and he was, so people can check that out and make up their own mind. So it is there, and really appreciate that feedback. Um, so yeah, Andrew, back to tomorrow. What would you like to see Rangers line up and do tomorrow? I've got a feeling Barry will go very similar to the other night, wanting to protect the team a wee bit, which I appreciate. But would you change it up?
I do have, this feeling that I think as many people do and supporters at the minute that, we've got players in this team that we don't want to see here for an extended period of time, and players that we would need to move on. Unfortunately, you've also got players like Oscar Cortez, who seems to be the buzzword for Rangers negatives in terms of the transfer business. Obviously, we've got that obligation, but you're going to need to start playing. You're going to have to try and weave them in if you have a long-term goal of moving them on for any sort of profit or anything close to what we have agreed. So that's a long-term player. You're going to have to get him in there somewhere. Same with Danilo, that's £6 million. You know, it's a £6 million Brazilian. You're going to need to either try and play him to get him back up to that, or you know, we're going to be making losses, and this is not what we want when you're going to have quite an interesting summer. If you're going to be moving players on and trying to maximise that, so you can then use that to bring the new managers players in. I'm sure we'll get on to the new manager, but players that have a future or an impact on our future in terms of spend, I think we need to have in the team somewhere so that potential suitors can get an eye on what they're trying to take off our hands.
Yeah, I would agree. Tino55 again gifted another membership. Thank you, Tino. That's 2 this evening. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate that. There is a few questions coming in about management and stuff, folks. I'll just get to them. I'll star them and keep them aside, and we'll get to all them shortly. Concentrating on tomorrow. Use the word Oscar Cortez. I still don't see him. I think it'll be the same 11 as the other evening. I think that's where Barry will go. I understand why he will do it, but we don't really learn too much from it, Andrew. So it's just a case of, do you know what? I said this morning, Rangers Review. I'm going to say it again. So, yeah, I really want them to do well tomorrow for Barry. That's my own personal opinion. I think that when Barry came in, he's come in a really tough spot. It's not been perfect, but he's had a few really good moments. When you look at, he's had a few comeback wins. We had the win in Fenerbahce. We got through that tie overall. We had the victory at Parkhead, and he's done well in certain games. Other games he hasn't. I think he's been safe to get results at times, but I understand exactly why he's done it. So for tomorrow, I would just like it for the whole management team, including Barry, if we could go out on a high, because he's not going to get the job. I think that's fair. I think nobody really expects him to get the job, but I would really like it if we could just get that done for him. And I thought the fans that were there the other night singing his name, I thought that was a really nice touch for him.
Definitely. I think, regardless of what you thought of him as, his appearances in the press, or I only have the kind of good memories and some memories of him as a player, as a younger Rangers fan. I do have a picture of him on my wall from when I was a wee boy. So he was never going to be, carted out of the place with negative reaction from the fans. He was always going to have us right behind him, regardless of how it went. And, as you said, some really positive results in terms of, a win at Parkhead, which has been difficult to come by under even better circumstances than what he's had, because let's not kid ourselves, it was an absolute garbage fire when he came in. So I think he should take a lot of praise for that and that result. Getting through to Europe again, through those rounds and giving a good account of myself. Obviously, Bilbao was just a step too far. The red card at home certainly didn't help in that. You never know what can happen if you have maybe a 1-goal lead to take over to Spain. You never know how that goes. But I think he can hold his head high. It's been a very difficult time. I think whoever it was going to be, if it was going to be an interim manager, or if you were going to bring in a new manager there and then, it would have been a difficult end to the season regardless. And I think spot on with the assessment. I think the players can give it, if they can give it one last game where they get out a good result and send them out on a high, then that would be, I'm sure they would appreciate that. And as you said, the Barry Ferguson song that I wrote the other night, it was a good touch, and I was happy that you took note of that in his reaction to the game.
What I've liked about him is a real plus. I think he spoke really well. I think he's handled everything really well, and I think he spoke very well. And people, have a label of Barry, and I don't think that's correct. So I've really been thankful. I think that he stepped in, and let's be honest with you, I know people won't agree, maybe, but I think he's put himself on the line to come in at the point where we are, because we were down the doldrums, getting beat, out of the Scottish Cup, beat at home to St Mirren, and he come in and he picked it up. And as I said, it's not all been perfect. Hibs and Motherwell at home, he regrets himself. I think against Athletic Club, we didn't really play our best stuff, which is unfortunate. Could have been different. I mean, I think everybody would agree we were denied a pretty stonewall penalty over there. But I respect the fact that he stepped in. Craig's just said that as well, which I really do appreciate that as well. So let's end it in a high tomorrow for him. Would you expect a management or announcement on Barry quite quickly? Barry was interesting, wasn't he, the other day in the presser? He said in the next few days, or certainly the start of next week, we're going to know where we're going and what's going on. Would that signal to you maybe that they'll make a formal announcement on Barry's future?
I think so. I mean, there's been different timelines. Barry gave his timeline, or you hear something from the club, but we're still maybe 4 weeks away from a manager announcement. I thought it was something like being thrown out. Those timelines would then suggest obviously Barry's not getting it. I think there would be with thanks to Barry and the rest of the coaching staff. We come to the end of our season. I would expect something. I don't know if this will wait till maybe towards the end of next week, and maybe depending on how the talks progress, if there is any more movement with Ancelotti, if there isn't any more shock announcements that there's movement in a potential agreement or disagreement, that you can maybe couple it with that. But who knows? To be honest, the way we are, I think. To be honest, I'd focus on whatever the result in the women's game is and go off of that. If there's going to be a big celebration for that, or we'll see what the rest of the weekend holds. But I think Barry has hinted that sooner rather than later you'll hear something about where he'll be in terms of his affiliation with the club, if he's going back to the ambassador role as he had before, or just taking a step away. I think regardless of whatever he takes, if he goes back to his ambassador role, again, he'll go back to what he was doing. If he needs a little bit of time away from the club after being thrown into the deep end, and I think we'd be happy to give him that as well. As again, it's certainly he took the call that we asked of him, and we thank him for that.
Yeah, we certainly do. Let's get back now to the management latest. Question here from James. What's happening with Stevie? Has Ancelotti knocked us back? Okay, so here's how today has unravelled in the world of Rangers. Never dull, as we know. It was reported first thing this morning by Alberto Pereira, who's a journalist. He has 18,000 followers on social media, described as not the most reliable. He said basically that Davide Ancelotti will stay on as his dad's coaching team at Brazil until the 2026 World Cup. He's decided to postpone his first job as manager. Okay, that's fine. So we've basically dealt with that for most of the day. Chris Jack, as ever, we're supposed to be off today, as we laughed. We phoned him this afternoon, and we laughed because he doesn't get a day off. Chris went out and investigated that. Now, Chris, I can't say too much, but Chris's source for his information is as good as it can be. And he basically said, Chris's words this afternoon, Davide Ancelotti will join Father Carlo in charge of Brazil for the matches with Ecuador and Paraguay next month, but the Italian has not ruled out a move to Ibrox as he considers his options amid interest from Rangers this summer. Right, okay, so here's where it is for everybody that's kind of, right, what does that mean, etc., etc. The long and short of it is Ancelotti will decide in the next couple of weeks with Rangers whether or not that's going to happen. Rangers will pursue their options that they have, and we'll find out within 14 days. That's the long and the short of it. Either way, nothing's been ruled in or out. He's still very much in the frame, we believe, from reports, Andrew, as much as we can, because nobody will really know what's going on apart from inside, the four walls at Ibrox Stadium. Patrick Stewart, Kevin Thelwell, Greta Steinson are leading these interviews. We now know that people have been interviewed. So we just wait And there's going to be days like today where it's on and it's off and it's on and it's off. And he certainly divides opinion on it, Andrew. But what's your thoughts in terms of Ancelotti Jr. and today's news that he was out and then in?
I mean, I was very much in that it was a positive, name to be linked with the job. I think we need to. I think as Kenny said a few times in recent shows, we need to really drag ourselves into the modern world of football. Obviously, we've had what we would maybe discuss as a positive forward-thinking managers previously, Michael Beale and Philippe Clement, and it hasn't really worked out. But I think as the kind of overall overhaul is going to happen at the club, I think we do need to commit to this forward-thinking, pathway that we're leading ourselves down. And I think from a number of people saying so that Davide seems to be quite the shrewd appointment if it's going to go that way. I think it seems as bit as blockbuster as you can probably get. The name, it's similar to when Stevie G came in. It's a name that players can. Okay, I'll keep an eye on that project. I'll listen to an offer potentially. I think you're going to have that small boost in recruitment. I think from the stories you hear, he seems to be quite a decent man manager as well. Or as close to a man manager you can get as an assistant manager or a head coach almost under a first team manager. I'm excited by it, assuming it goes the way that we'd like it to be and he does become the next Rangers manager. But as you said, when you have days like this today where you essentially rip up the playbook and go, well, who is it going to be now? Has Derek signed anything yet? Tweets coming in quite early in the morning were a good laugh for me. Are we really going to go there? It's going to be one of these where we're going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait. But I'm surprised it's been kept quiet this long. Obviously, Roll was kind of. We went for Gerrard was the leader, then Marco Rosa was the leader, and now Danny Roll became the leader in this. And all of a sudden, Davide comes out of nowhere, and it almost seems like, well, from Marca and the Real Madrid sources that he'd almost agreed a deal. But as we've heard, that's not been the case. There's not really been a contract offered as such. But it's strange how it can just go from being quiet to all stations go in a number of hours almost, and then the opposite.
See, I'm probably a bit long in the tooth now to understand that these things are never done until they're done. I don't get up nor down. I said it a lot this morning. I'm excited about potentially Rangers doing what I would consider to be what's the word I'm looking for? I wouldn't say exciting, but I want Rangers to be the best that they could possibly be. I want that drive. I want people believing that we can be the top team in Scotland. I want people to drive that on and have that enthusiasm and have that desire to become the top. So what they're doing, in my opinion, by going to get Ancelotti Jr. is looking outside the box a wee bit in terms of who's available to us, what names are available to us, what's an exciting appointment, and we're doing that. And I'm not up nor down on Ancelotti. I think that's fair. The same as Danny Roll, the same as the other guys that have been mentioned with it. But I think it's interesting what they're doing. And this is where it goes back to the thing, right? We talk about a takeover, Andrew, and we talk about new manager and things like that. This is what we wanted. We wanted a takeover. We wanted that enthusiasm. We wanted that drive behind us to make Rangers great again, as the slogan goes. I don't have anything against targeting what we can and what we consider to be the best up and coming coaches, going down that model of it's going to be a head coach rather than a manager. Now, I've always been of the opinion that we need a figurehead, and I think that this could be interesting. So I'm trying to get it across. It's difficult. and it's difficult. So I'm enthusiastic about it. I like the direction that they seem to be taking with the potential candidates, and that's for sure. Because, like as we said, we are speculating as much as anybody we can rely on. Mainstream, trying to find out what comes out from other sources and things like that, and just wait. So that's basically where I am with it. But Ancelotti, Danny Roll, and things like that, they're exciting for me because at least it's different. Does that make sense? I don't feel like I've made sense, but does that make sense?
I can kind of grasp what you're saying there. I think the names that were thrown out, you've had the. I think as soon as there was a manager change this season, that Gerrard would come back into the discussion. Then with everything going on with the takeover, you then had anybody that's them or their extended family had anything to do with the Red Bull energy drinks company was then linked with the job. Your Marco Rosa, your Danny Rowe. I seen Tedesco was rumoured on Twitter today. But again, that's who's been at Red Bull within the last 20 years. So they can automatically take at least the top 10 spot in the bookies odds. And then you've got Davide, who again, I think everybody goes, well, Ancelotti, that takes the media and the headliners for your papers, and they're rubbing their hands going, oh, here we go, we're sorted for the next week for our sports headlines. But you take a step back, we want somebody that's, wants to be a winner. I think the thing with Gerrard for me was that it would have been coming back to right some wrongs, so having that extra motivation. I think Davide maybe wanting to take a step away from his dad's team, go out on his own, prove he can do it on his own, take on a new challenge. He's been there and amongst it with your big teams, your Bayerns, your PSGs. He was there at Everton with, as a link to the British game, obviously. At Real Madrid, it's top teams in the world of football, modern teams, and crafting and being a part of a team a coaching team that's crafting winners. Obviously, this season hasn't gone very well with Real, with Barcelona taking the top spot back, but I drive to win every season in each of these teams, which is what we want. But interesting, I want to see a modern mindset with this for our team because we have been stuck in the mud almost with the way that we see the club in it. And I don't mean you get rid of all the traditions. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. But we need to be more front foot approach to recruitment. We said that the buzzword, the player trading model, all that's and how it didn't work, and being proactive in the markets. And I think as we said when he was copying, he spent half of his summer last year going to agent summits across the globe, picking up as much as he could on talents that maybe were a wee bit further afield. That's where we need to be looking. We need to find the new ways to be successful domestically, and then also looking at European football, because as we've got a decent pedigree in European football at the minute. What would it look like with some extra investment, with some more outside of the box thinking, shall we say? I think that's an exciting prospect.
Yeah, so when we think about investment and out of the box thinking and stuff like that, what we do know is, in terms of the takeover, the Americans have been here since Monday. Raminder Dwadal, you would have seen him at the game midweek. They've been doing some work on the takeover and tying up the kind of loose ends, and it looks to be progressing every single day. I think when you see the work that Thelwell's been doing, the work that Steinson's been doing behind the scenes, and people were being linked with and things, I think that's a clear sign to me that that we're in a good place regarding the takeover, Andrew, and it's just a matter of dotting the I's and crossing the T's in the weeks to come, and that's the kind of excitement I'm looking forward to, finding out that's been done, who's going to come in as manager, get the other people in. Medical needs an uplift. I would take somebody for the academy. The Everton boys have been linked. These are things that I'm looking forward to all kind of coming together in the coming weeks, and I think that's even before we look at stuff on the pitch. And I think it's going to be exciting times with regards to news and things that is coming for the club.
To link it to my personal work life, it feels like in IT when you've got a download going and it shoots all the way up to 98%, and then those next 2% take an hour, 2 hours to complete. So you get that close to it, but it's just these final bits that need to fall into place. But as you said, as soon as the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, we're in really exciting times, and it's only going to grow arms and legs, and we'll see the works that have been going on behind the scenes and the works that they will have in mind for the future will start to take fruition, and from there we've got the ball rolling. But it's just this waiting game again, and it feels like we've been saying it's just this waiting game since what, January, February. We all knew we needed change, and now that it's getting there, it feels like time's slowing down a wee bit because you're just waiting and hoping you get something, a wee announcement here or there to suggest that we're really in the end game of this whole takeover, and we can start to really focus on where the club's going in the next season, season after that, and so on and so forth, under the new ownership.
This is the enthusiasm that I wanted with regards to Andrew Kavanagh and the consortium behind him. We wanted change. We wanted new leadership. We wanted a new direction for the club. We wanted a forward-thinking, enthusiastic, and furthermore, ambition. I think that's the biggest word for me. It's ambitious, in my opinion, to go and try and get the assistant manager of Real Madrid, son of one of the most famous coaches in the world. That's ambition for me. It's ambitious to go and get a young, forward-thinking, progressive manager type, somebody like Danny Role. I think it would be very easy to get somebody that potentially is a safe pair of hands. I would have been tempted, as I said, to go and try and get Steven Gerrard. I've always felt like that because I feel like he knows the position, he knows the job, and for me, feeling safe about it, and I understand completely, his record, his job since. I would have understood if they had went to do that, but from all the reports we're seeing, it seems like we're going another direction, which I welcome. I really, really want that kind of enthusiasm around our football club again, because it's felt like this season that's really been missing. And I know in previous years when things haven't went well, there's always been a bit of hope regarding, whoever's been in charge. There's always been a bit of, enthusiasm around it. This season, it's not there. And I think we all know that if this takeover and things wasn't to happen, which I don't at this stage think there's a chance of that, then we would know that things would be different. I think fans would be protesting. I think the attendances you've seen in the last couple of games, Andy, would be the norm for Ibrox at the moment. I think there was 27,000 at games in the last couple of days. So we know, and I can't help but feel without a takeover, that's where we would be.
Oh, definitely. There's been an unacceptable season, top to bottom. I think recruitment-wise, we're again suffering from 3 or 4 years back not having this kind of future in place, and which is what we want to see under this new ownership, is that we're not just looking at what's immediately ahead of us. We're looking for future proofing any form of success that we can bring. If it's immediate success, spot on. But having that at the end of one season, your job isn't done. You need to then focus on the season after that, and be just that. As we said again, forward thinking. It's we've said it a few times, but it's because we've been lacking it so badly over the last few seasons. How many times I can count over the last God knows how many years now that who'd you bring in after Tav, and now we're getting to this point where we're still having this conversation, and it just feels like organisation wise, in terms of even just to simplify the transfers. You could talk about managers and plans after Gerrard going. You bring in Van Bronckhorst and you hope that works. but it seems like we were ripping it up and starting from the ground up every year, which you can't do in terms of recruitment, and then obviously based on managers. Once you've brought in that recruitment from that manager's summer picks, you then sack that manager, bring in a new manager, and he has to work with a whole different, you know, a grab bag of players he didn't really want. It's been a shambles, There's no getting away from it. So we're hoping that with a wee bit more organised approach, you don't always have to rely on starting from the ground up. You have a framework you can work off. If you are to have Davide be a sensation and a big club comes looking at him or a bigger team, a better opportunity, something that he can't turn down, comes knocking, that we have a plan in place for who comes next. If you've got another Hamza, or in Hamza's case, he gets. I was assuming that we would have some interest for Hamza or Nico in the summer, falling into that category of your star player has a big deal that we can't refuse. So who's going to be the next one to fill that gap? Just having a pipeline of this is where we want to go, because we've been sorely missing it for the last 5 years minimum, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the whole club has suffered from not having a plan of action for anybody. You've seen it when the CEO left, when the chairman left. I think that's clear. We need a plan for anyone. A working infrastructure, correct, as Craig Gallagher puts it, absolutely spot on. But we need that not only on the park, but also off it. And I'm really hoping that the takeover will bring that. But let's round up there. We've been on for 30 odd minutes. Almost 2,000 people watching, folks. Really appreciate that. Thanks to all our members that are joining in the questions and the comments. If you've got any questions before we go, we will take them. But Andrew, big weekend for the women's team. 2 massive results this week against Celtic and Hearts away, which we needed to win. They've managed to give themselves a shot in the arm. Rangers announced earlier on over 4,000 tickets being sold for Ibrox on Sunday, which is a great uplift for the women's team. Probably threatens to be their biggest attendance, I think, at Ibrox, certainly. Rangers can win this and win the league. If Hibs get a point or win, they will finish first. Glasgow City win, then they will be at minimum, they will be in second, depending on what happens, because they cannot win the league anymore. But if they win, automatically will finish second, because they've got a better goal difference than the Hibs if they were to lose. If Rangers were to win, they would win the league and they can't catch Rangers, but they would overtake Hibs. If Hibs get a point, it means Rangers will only get a point, so they'd overtake Rangers. So City are, if need to win, to finish second. Hibs win or draw to win the league. If they lose and City win, they'll be third. So it's cutthroat on Sunday. And Rangers, it's all or nothing victory to win the league. They have been beaten by Hibs twice this season, 2-0, 3-0. Gubbed in those games. They were so poor. I've seen both of them. But in the League Cup final, they turned up to 1-5-0. It's a massive, massive opportunity on Sunday. And then they've got the Scottish Cup the following week, a first chance for a treble, which has never been done before, I believe, and that level. Certainly never been done by Rangers. Massive game, massive opportunity for the team.
That alone should be enough motivation for them to get over the line. You know what you're playing for. That should, if that doesn't get you fired up and raring to go at home, it's yours to win, it's yours to lose, it's up to you now. I'm feeling very positive about it. I think, Hearts and getting through there was kind of like, again, you get the ball rolling because you knew you had to do it. You had to win that one to even give yourself a shot in the final day, and they did so. And it's from there on. This is what you worked so hard against Hearts to get to, and you got your reward for that, getting to this game. Go and knock the rest of them down. I win at home, and then, as you said, a cup final to go and have a look at, and a treble would be amazing. I think that the players would deserve it along the season. Some really fine moments along the road. Some really great goals, and yeah, I'm really hoping that they can go on and get the success that I think they deserve.
Yeah, I would agree. Huge thanks to everybody that watched the show, folks. Massive um, encouragement to the women's team on Sunday. Good luck, and let's hope they do well. Andrew, thank you for joining us on this Friday evening. Is it Chelsea Man U for you later, or are you plumping for Livy, Partick Thistle in the old Scottish playoffs? What's your poison?
I was gonna say what I really would say, but I don't want to slagging off you because I was gonna say I'll keep an eye on the golf, to be honest. But I might chuck on Man U Chelsea to see how far both teams have fallen, probably. But yeah, I might just chill and enjoy the weather whilst it's here.
Yeah, absolutely. Chance to walk the dog for a wee bit and then sit down and watch one of them. Thanks to everybody that's joined in. 2,000 people watching. Fantastic. If you can like and subscribe on our YouTube channel, that really helps us. Much appreciated. Thank you to everyone that has become a member of our YouTube channel. 200 hobbies. Absolutely fantastic. Really appreciate the uptake on the membership. For members, Stephen A. Smith interview is available for everyone that wants to watch. So please go and check that out. It's had a tremendous feedback so far, and really appreciate all that. Also, for members, there is a competition running, so go and check out the competition video. Chance to win a couple of t-shirts in there, so we'll get that all done. I think that's all to be said, folks. Thanks for joining us on this Friday evening. We really, really appreciate it. The weather's lovely. Go and have a great weekend. Good luck to the team on the final day tomorrow, and good luck to Rangers women on Sunday. We hope you go and do it. Everybody have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us on Four Lads.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.